All right, there you go.
All right, everybody, welcome. This is Plot Points TV, episode 2, years later. And the reason we're doing this is just because we wanted to have a moment. I'm going to adjust my camera. Just a moment to talk about the play-by-email that we posted. It was an experiment for us to do the play-by-email and post it on the site. It seemed to have done really well. It seemed to be very well received. And I thought maybe that our readers would be interested in kind of a behind the scenes of what was going on when we were setting this up and our experiences playing the game. And I just kind of want to give everybody an opportunity to say their piece on it and tell me what a lousy GM I've been. All right,
You've been a fine GM.
Yeah.
No.
Okay. So I guess we should go around and just say who we are real quick. I'm Jason, and I've been the watcher for most of the play-by-email. I started out. I feel awful. I'm blanking on his name. Sorry. I've been watching too much Critical Role, and I've got Matt Mercer in my head. Mark Meredith.
Yeah.
I've got so Mark Meredith started he's the host of the site, and he is the person who's decided to do the play-by-email. And he had reasons why he couldn't continue, and I took over. So that's me. David, why don't you go next?
Sure. I'm David White. I played the young and bombastic Nova. I had fun. It was fun getting to play by email. Hadn't really got to do one before, so I think you did a really great job, Jason.
Oh, well,
and I'll talk about what I liked specifically later. But
okay.
I'm David White and I'm Nova.
Okay, thank you. All right, Ken?
Yeah, hi, I'm Ken Hart. I am playing Michael Morbius, the living vampire. I've always been a fan of the Marvel horror characters going back to the 70s. And I've been writing for Plot Points on and off for about, I guess it's been over a year now.
Okay. And Murder?
Yeah, so my name is Mirko Esposito, as you can say there. And I'm playing Cyclops, who used to be the leader of the X-Men, but he recently just changed his background and joined the footballing game as a SHIELD member. So I found that quite exciting, and I've been there from the start. But I joined just I think roughly a year ago. The website with the event fee itself, and I haven't left since because it's quite active group and it's quite interesting. So that's the word, I guess.
Okay. Well, I think what I want to do is kind of just go and ask just generally how everybody feels the system worked in this format. A lot of people have on the comments of our various entries, various posts, they've been curious about play-by-email for this, and I've seen a lot of Hangout play, but I haven't seen a lot of play-by-email play posted anywhere else. So, what was everybody's experience going forward?
For me, I've been doing play-by-email in other games, mostly D&D.
Mm-hmm.
And the challenge with the Marvel Heroic system and to do that is the reactions, because pretty much every dice roll is opposed by something else.
Right.
So you have to kind of create an artificial pace, if that's the right term, to keep things moving along. And we discovered that early on. We had a couple of hiccups, but I think the way we've been doing it has worked out pretty well. I really like the initiative system in the game, and as long as you have people who are willing to commit to participating on a fairly regular basis, and ready to jump in when someone says, "Okay, I'm done. You're up next," then I think it'll work pretty well.
Yeah, we had when the first several months over the summer basically was very slow and drawn out for a lot of us, just because it was very difficult to get somebody to come back and do the reaction roll.
Right.
And it left a lot of threads hanging, which as a watcher was okay for me, because then I got to plan a little bit more and kind of think about where the story was going to go next. But I know that as a player, because I started off as a player, and I started off playing as a Arachnite, but as a player, it was just mind-bendingly just tough to wait for that next response, because you wanted the story to progress, and it wasn't even that you wanted to get to your turn, it was just you wanted to see what was going to happen next, whatever else was going to I think that was the main reason why I did that house rule.
Right.
It was just we needed something, and there was absolutely no way we would have made the December deadline to post this. If we would still be in round 3.
Right. Right.
So it was a necessary change. I do like the initiative system as written. I just don't think that it worked as well.
Right.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. I'd say I like passing it to whoever, and Dr. Doom, do we want to pass it to him? There's pros and cons of passing it to him. So I like that aspect of it. But like y'all had said, I think for the play by email, it really slowed things down. And I think early on, I've been really excited about it. And early on, I think I kind of checked out and said, I don't really want to keep doing this, because it was just going so slow. But then Jason, you came up with the new initiative system, and I love that. That brought me back into the game, and I want to stick around for more. So I like that. A good game master and a good watcher always adjust things for his players. So I think you did a good job with that.
Thank you. It was a question of wanting to make sure the game didn't stagnate.
Right. Yeah. Now go ahead, Marco.
Sorry, so if I can add, I to completely agree with what you guys said, and all the feelings and all the reaction when we started at first, and how it has improved and changed drastically once you introduced that house rule, to the point that actually I'm playing my games without rules, and like as a standard rule, because I found that the reaction system was being a bit slow. We're slowing down, especially building up them rules. So I'm now much preferring my every week like game to have a one round that kind of sums it up all, because in a way that's what this game is strong on. This is like descriptive, and that's when you build up like a whole round, and then you see what happens after that. You don't need action reaction. It's not like D&D. That is quite stuffy as a game. It's lots of roles. So I really appreciated that, and I think it works great with a play by email type of system. So well done.
So I'm glad that you was actually able to translate into a live game.
Yeah.
Always concerned when I monkey around with the rules that it's going to throw something else off balance. Like, I was really concerned about what was going to happen if 3 people are going after the same bad guy.
Right.
Or if what was it going to do to the plot point economy? But it seems to have weathered itself okay. If I see anything come up, I'll tweak it in the future. But I'm just glad that it didn't have too much of a residual impact on other features of the system. Is there anything else besides the initiative order and things like that work better or worse in play by email than you have in live?
I would say certainly you have more time to think about what you want to do.
Right.
Certainly that's the case for you as the watcher, and it's the case for us as the players. We can instead of just reacting automatically. You can think about it. You have a couple of hours, a few hours, even a day maybe, to think about what it is you want to do. What's the best situation here? And you can take the time to look back over previous posts to see maybe there's something I missed, or maybe somebody said something I can follow up on. And that's one of the advantages, I think, in general of play by email or play by post games over live games.
It has become much more of a writing experience.
Mm-hmm.
It's more like you're writing a novel,
right?
Playing a game. The thing that I found was hard about play by email was actually keeping track of things like how many plot points people had, and making sure that everybody was able to keep up with their milestones.
Yeah.
Because those, because you get involved in what you're writing and you can forget, oh, my character's supposed to be going toward this goal.
Yeah.
So those are things that it hasn't been lost, but it's been harder to keep that momentum for me.
If I could just jump in, I would say one thing, one disadvantage of the forum that we're currently using, the whole Google Groups thing, is it's a threaded conversation. There are other places you can do a play-by-post game where you have different forums, or subboards. So, for example, I'm running a Marvel heroic game on Pro boards, and I have one board set up for the in-character action and another board set up for everyone's milestones, so that people can jump back and forth on that. Also, right. Another thing for my signature, my SIG file, I update that SIG file with everyone's plot points, current plot point totals. And so there are ways to get around it. I think sometimes we're a little limited by the Google Groups format.
Yeah. And I kept a spreadsheet. During the one that we've already published, I kept a spreadsheet on the Google Docs on our shared site doc, to try to make sure everybody knew where everything was. I found it unwieldy, and I ended up creating a smaller, smarter one that's just on my desktop. That I at least can keep track of where things are.
Cool.
And so far it hasn't been too bad. And it keeps track of not just milestones and plot points, but also injuries everybody has. Because it gets real easy to lose where everybody is when you've got that much scrolling time.
Stress levels, plot points.
Exactly. Trauma, so. And we've been fortunate we didn't have any trauma yet, but but I'm sure it's coming, because this next story arc is going to be, you've already had a taste, it's going to be a little weird. This is the normal part of the story.
Weird is good. Weird is good.
Yeah, getting the vibe now.
Yeah. So, weird is good, says the vampire.
That's right. Well, look at the lineup we have. I mean, so weird is I think weird fits our group.
Oh yeah.
And just so our viewers have an idea of what's going on, right now we're doing we're kind of blending in the second half of Breakout, which we haven't touched much yet, with the start of a homebrew re-envisioning of House of M, which, since none of the Avengers or X-Men from the story are really involved, is a real rewrite. And it's not going to go. It's going to start with the same core idea, but it's going to go in a completely different direction. Yeah. So just so that people are aware of what's going to be coming in, I hope to do this one instead of doing the entire event in one post. I'm probably going to do a scene and then post, and then a scene and then post. So that we, or at the very least, break it down so it's smaller chunks, so that people can follow along and kind of enjoy our adventures for as long as we're all willing to have them. But let's switch gears a little bit and talk about the characters, why we chose them, and why we found them fun to do. And, if we would still use those same characters if we had to choose again.
If so,
Whoever wants to go first.
Go ahead.
yeah. um, I choose Cyclops, I guess, because it's possibly my maybe second favorite character. My first one should be Spider-Man, but I didn't want to go for the obvious one, wisecracking one. I trying to go with someone that seemed a bit more deep as a character, because I was along with Morbius, Arachnite, whose background sounds quite grim in some ways. Nora was the only one, I guess, out of tone a bit, because even Hellcat has been quite intense in terms of background, and I just wanted to have something to tell, like a story to tell that kind of shows some conflict. So I will definitely pick it up again. I pick the same character because I think we fit quite well in what the setting has been, the breakout and the new team of kind of people who got together in a very weird way. We're not so much background story that can kind of maybe impair and kind of draw away from the main storyline that we had. So definitely going to go for the same one. I think it suits until now, and I'm quite pleased of the choice and of the mates that we found around. Oh yeah, sorry for the British word. Mate to me doesn't sound as cool as an American. the party goers in the group. So who wants to pick up from there?
I'll go ahead and well, I picked Nova because I wanted to have fun. I too almost picked Spider-Man, but like Mirko said, I didn't want to go with the obvious choice. I wanted, at the very beginning, we said that this play style or this play session was going to set up our Marvel universe,
Right.
And I wanted to take a relatively young, underdeveloped character and kind of see him build as they go through the years, as it were, and seeing him grow as a character. Because Marvel in the past hasn't really capitalized on younger characters. They've just kind of stayed young. How many years was the Young Avengers the Young Avengers?
Yeah. Right.
So, yeah. So I'd like Peter Parker. You know, he started as high school and now he's grown into a young adult.
Decades to get there.
Yeah, exactly. So I wanted to take Nova and kind of present him as he grows in real time, or as real as our time will get. So if I had to choose another character, I might, just to fit better with the theme of the group, because Nova is a bit predisposed to the vampire and the religious zealot on the team, and the demon-possessed girl. So he's a very odd choice to have on this team, but I think it'll be fun to play.
Which is what I love about it, because it's like if you have a meal and it's all steak and there's no sides. Pretty soon you don't even want to taste the steak anymore.
Yeah.
It's so much for the same flavor. You have to have something else to break it up, and I think that having Nova there really it highlights how dark some of the dark characters are, but it also adds flavor and some mirth to make it a little bit more watchable and more readable, because it gives you a break and it gives you another way of looking at it. I love Hellcat for that same reason.
Yeah.
Right.
Because we got the most comments on Hellcat's synopsis of her opinion of the other people on the team. Everyone thought that was hysterical.
Yeah, that was very good.
She has some of the funniest moments, and she still can be very dark.
Yeah. Married to the son of Satan. Yes.
Yeah, but I think that the interplay between the characters has been fantastic. And like I said, more like a story, a novel, than a game in a lot of ways. So that has been kind of a point of pride for me.
Yeah.
Let's go ahead, Ken.
Yeah. I chose Morbius because, as I mentioned before, I've always been a big fan of the Marvel heroes, the supernatural heroes going back into the 70s. I read all those books: Tomb of Dracula, The Living Mummy, Son of Satan, the whole bit. And I like the way Morbius has been portrayed in some recent appearances with the Legion of Monsters miniseries. Basically he's the mayor of a town. He's the mayor of a town of monsters, and he's got to deal with all that responsibility. And I thought that was brilliant. So I kind of like dealing with him having to deal with the darker sides of his own nature, while also relishing this opportunity to be something a bit better. To be like the doctor of the team. And if I weren't playing Morbius, I probably would take advantage of the play-by-post medium and go with the Beast, because I could have a lot more fun with the dialogue if I had time to actually think about what I wanted to say. I could sound very scientific and much smarter than I really am. And if I were making up dialogue on the fly for Hank McCoy.
Well, I think
Beast is always
done that. You've actually done that with Morbius.
Yeah, thanks.
You've had a lot to play there. And I've not been familiar with Morbius. I was never really into the horror genre at all.
Yeah.
But one of the nice things about having been in this as a watcher is having to research all of your characters so that I have an idea of what the heck I'm going to throw at you, and learning all these interesting things about character histories and things like that I would not have.
I would recommend, if you have the Marvel Unlimited subscription, reading through the Legion of Monsters miniseries or Marvel Zombies 4, because in Marvel Zombies 4 he has to lead a team of supernatural characters against the zombies.
Right. Yeah, the only real exposure I've had to Morbius, apart from like seeing him in the Marvel Superheroes TSR book, was the Spider Island storyline.
Oh yeah.
So, and a little bit after that,
right?
Before he became inferior Spider-Man. But anyway, we're not going to talk much about that. But it was real fun to see all these different characters. To see Darkchild get pulled into it midway through the beginning, and to see just the different interplay. For me, when I was still a player, I like everyone else, almost everyone else here, I was like, well, no one's chosen Spider-Man, and then I went, I really don't feel like being that glib. I just don't have it in me right now to be that upbeat and cracking jokes, but I still like the powers, and I still like the theme. So what could I do? And that's why I went through Peter Parker's history. Like, who would be motivated to do this? Who I would be interested in playing? And it happened very accidentally across the Stacys, and it was right at the same time as Breakout was about to happen. It was just before, and it was a character who was like, it didn't make sense to me that he became the Grey Goblin, but it would have made perfect sense to me for him to go the other way. And it gave me an opportunity to do some writing, which I had been neglecting. So it was just a win-win for me to kind of design the costume, take Gabriel in a completely different path, and just have fun with it. And that's why I ended up asking if I could play that character. So, and if I were to choose somebody else, if I weren't a watcher, if I were to choose somebody else, I think that as much as I'm not really into the mystical characters, I probably would have picked up Red Norvell. Because I've had a lot of fun playing him as a watcher character. Just because he's kind of like Thor, but without the common sense.
Wait a second.
No, I'm serious. Thor, even though he talks weird and he comes across as a brick, he's actually fairly smart.
Yeah.
And he's got hundreds and hundreds of years worth of experience, whereas Red is just some jerk who got powers and thinks he's entitled to. But there's more to him than that. But that's the core.
And I had to do some research on him. You were saying you did some looking up on our characters. I was like, I don't know anything about this character. I need to get into the Marvel Wiki.
He popped up briefly. The second time I saw him was right around the time, just before Onslaught.
Mm-hmm.
He appeared in a Hulk book. And I was like, who is this guy? And at first I was like, why are they replacing Thor? Why are they doing this? And I'm like, this is actually an interesting take, and I wish they would do more with him. And he disappears after that. And he would have thought he would have been great for Fear itself for him to come back, because that was his original role, was to take Thor's place as the victim of Ragnarok. So I was surprised they didn't drag him back in for that. But to have him pulled out and be an agent of S.H.I.E.L.D., that was like, this could work. I'm not planning on using him again for a while, and I was hoping that some of the people who had jumped out would jump back in and maybe grab him as a player character. So I kind of left him there for people to do that. But yeah, if I were to do somebody else, that would be who I would do.
That's cool.
Well,
all right, so I think I'm going to take and let's open it up to if anyone wants to talk about something in particular about the story or about the experience. This is a good time to jump in and do that.
Well, I've enjoyed playing with Joe Stroop. It's kind of funny because he was kind of a mini celebrity to me, because I had watched him play Colossus on another Google Hangout, The Age of Apocalypse by Stephen Shast. And so as I was watching that, a couple of years ago, I would text my friend and say, this Joe Stroop guy is really cool. He really plays Colossus really well. And then as soon as he joined Plot Points, I was like, Joe Stroop!
I didn't realize we had a celebrity.
Yeah, but I really enjoyed playing with Joe. He's a good guy. I tried to get him to play in another one of my games, but he had to back out. So, oh well.
Yeah, we can't everyone be everywhere.
Yes, that is true.
Yeah. I think that for me, the best part has been the opportunity to do some creative writing.
mm-hmm.
And to think about phrasing both from delivering information to the players and delivering information to the people who are going to be reading it afterward, and making sure it feels like a story and that it flows, and that it makes sense. That's been a fun challenge for me, and I've quickly figured out that the best way to do that for me is to, whenever it's the watcher telling the reaction, to tell it from the point of view of one of the watcher characters. That has seemed to work the best.
Yeah.
That way, I'm not putting thoughts into your players' minds. I'm trying to do that as little as possible, because I don't want to be steering your characters in a certain way. And it allows me to make some nameless NPCs into something a little bit more.
Right.
I can't think of his name. The maintenance tech.
Oh yeah.
The maintenance tech. That little scene.
That was great. Yeah.
That little scene was just like, what would be really dumb that would actually happen? And those were going to be two throwaway characters, and it turned into the one thing you needed to get where you needed to go. That and turning the strike team that was meeting up with Darkchild into essentially the cast of SG-1. That was my inspiration for those three characters. I didn't have Teal, but I had the other three. So to have little things like that thrown in, and of course Roscoe.
Roscoe, yes.
Which we haven't seen yet in the news story. But you see it in the news story.
We'll see more of them.
Yeah. Well, we won't see. Well, we won't. That was a throw. That was like, what can I do here? Oh, let's do that.
One thing I like about what we're doing, and this goes, I think, is the case for a lot of play-by-post games, is being able to split up the party without boring the other players. Because when you split up, say, a group of, say, 5 to 6 people in a live session, well, then you have to take two of the players aside and talk to them for a few minutes while the other people just kind of twiddle their thumbs, talk about what they saw on TV last night, and so forth. And then you have to get them back invested in the game. In a play-by-post game, you don't really have that issue, because we're all doing different things right now as our characters are coming back into the action from different vantage points. But it's not really any time delay for any of us, because we can just read the posts in a matter of a minute or two, and then it's our turn.
Yeah, it's really easy to get caught back up again.
Yeah.
And I try to keep the document that I'm actually going to post live, so that if you can't find, if it's, I have a hard time sometimes going through the post because sometimes they don't always open up correctly, on my computer anyway. So just having the long stream as a finished text that everyone can jump into makes it easier for me to find things. But yeah, to have that opportunity to review what we've already done has been a big help for me as a watcher, because then I don't have to go, did we cover that?
Yeah.
Did we reach that? Did we reach that plot and point, in terms of actual plot, not in terms of the point? But did we actually reach that point in the story where we covered that issue? And where could I make it grow? And where's a dead end?
Right.
So that has been a real good thing. The whole Playboy email has been a good mix of struggles and advantages, and I've been very happy with it, especially since this is the first time I've been able to be in a game in like a decade. So it was like, I'll take whatever I can find to actually play a game again. And this is basically steered into my wheelhouse because it lets me to write.
Great.
That's good.
So
You're doing incredibly well for being that rusty, I have to say.
Yeah.
Don't look or sound that rusty, to be honest. Yeah. I'm very surprised how sometimes I can lose the plots, if that makes sense, and because there's so many threads. They are very easy to read and pleasant, but there's so many threads, and there's so many plot points to count, and then so many like XP, and there's so many different characters. But you're doing that very well. So whatever you're doing, actually, I think you should write it up in a post, like give advices, because you are the best person to give advice on how to keep track of all of this. And yeah, it's just it's quite surprising.
it's been a learning experience.
Okay.
Yes.
And I'm retiring as of now. Ken, you're in charge.
Okay.
I'll send you my notes. No, it's been definitely a learning experience. It's not the first time I've ever run a game. In fact, I'm usually the person running the game, which is why I was so excited to be a player at first.
Yeah.
And I may ask after this story arc is over to let somebody else run it for a little while so that I can jump in as a player.
Yes.
Yeah.
But I'm happy to finish the story arc. But I would love to take a Arachnite and explore, because I'm not going to be able to do that.
Right.
But basically, he's going to be a watcher character, and when he's needed, he's there, and when he's not, he's going to be off in the background. But I'd love to be able to play him again, and really further his story. So that is something I'd like to do at some point in the future. But yeah, it's been a lot of fun running this story. I'm sad that Mark had to stop, but And if he comes back, I'll gladly hand it over to him if he wants to start up again after my story is done. I don't like jumping. I don't like dropping a story halfway through. But and if you wanted to be a player, I could jump in. Whoever wants to play, jump in. I think that this format, this is one of the strengths is I think this particular format lends itself to larger groups.
Yeah.
I think it can handle a larger group fairly well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How many players do we have?
How many what?
How many active players do we have right now?
The total number of active players on the story arc were 9, which is the 9 that were in the art on the post.
Okay.
And Cable only lasted a very brief time, but technically speaking, we had 9 live bodies at one point.
I think having nine people in a live session would be a little crazy.
Yeah,
I usually cut mine off at 7.
Yeah.
7. I never even reached that high.
Right. Yeah. Seven's a bit much even for me.
Yeah.
I've run a couple of games like conventions with 7 people, and it's rough.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm starting next week actually a Titan's Grave game, and it's got 4.
Yeah.
And it's going to be. I think it's going to be a nice sized, manageable group. And it's going to be in a Hangouts setup. So I think it'll be a nice size, easy to manage, and it'll give me opportunity to learn that set of rules better as we play. So, but yeah, I think that a 9-10 player game is perfectly feasible in this setting, especially with the modified rules.
Yeah.
Works really well.
The challenge being trying to find ways to balance the Doom pool so that I can keep it a challenge for everybody.
Yeah.
The Doom pool is always one of the tougher things to manage, like to know when to spend and when to hold those dice.
Yeah.
Which I almost messed up at the beginning of this next story arc. I almost really screwed myself over. But yeah, that's
Like now, for example, like thinking about it, we got a bit stuck because of this sharing moment about the plot point game, but I'm really looking forward to what's happening next. I mean, this custom thing about what is going to happen next. I've written my post. I want to read the answer. I want to, as Ken was saying before, all these different story arcs of all the different characters. Sometimes I was like, oh damn, I want to hear how that ended. And that's my turn. I have to write, otherwise it's not going to go any forward. And I just really think it's very immersive because, as we were saying before, we take a lot of time to write nice answers and create good descriptions, and it's something that generally on live games spend not that much time doing, because otherwise it becomes wordy and it becomes a bit slow, and people have very different active way of doing that. So there's someone who's very descriptive, someone else instead is just quite brief. So there's a quite big match between the two styles. Whereas in this case, it's been very immersive, which I have to say I was surprising because I never played by email, I never played by post, and I always find it a bit strange. I don't know, it just works really well, really well. So I'm very pleased that we started this, guys, and I'm really looking forward to keep doing that, and as long as you can keep it up, Jason.
Yeah. I wanted to ask too, if what people's opinions were of my occasional asides, where I fill in the blanks of characters that aren't the main characters. If that was even interesting to anybody, or if that was helpful. The primary example would be Matt Murdock dealing with that one rambunctious guard in the last story arc. The scenes like that are there's no interaction of the player characters, but it was something that we needed to kind of close a gap in the story so that people go, well, why didn't this? What happened to Matt? You know, is it something that you want to see steered away from, or is it something that you want me to just keep doing and just have it be there as a filler for the reader?
I would say the rule of thumb should be for these sort of things, as it is for many things with the moral heroic system, is would this work? Would this look good in a comic book?
Yeah.
And to me, I mean, that scene you did with Matt Murdock is perfect for a comic book. I mean, it's just, yes, I want to, you know, if you're reading along, you want to know what happened to Matt Murdock when he went up on his own and told Morbius, you know, you do this, I'm going up. Well, you want to know what happens, and I think that scene was like a really well-written comic book scene, and it worked.
Totally agree. Totally.
Okay, I don't want to bore readers, and I don't want to distract from the players. So I felt like it needed to be done, just because it was a hanging thread, and I didn't think that just because of what was needed for the plot of the story, I didn't think that Morbius would have a chance to go back and check on that before the crisis was over.
Right.
And nobody else was going to get there. So I wanted to make sure that I didn't want a hanging plot thread, and that was why I did it. The same thing. There was another one. When Hellcat in the next story is assuming why Arachnite is so tense, and she makes her role as to what she's going to do to try to break that tension, and it turns out. And this was true. I actually had a secondary story that I haven't written yet for Arachnite that was going to start with that scene, and that was the reason why he really was that tense. But the original idea was we were going to go to the Savage Land first, then come back and start this, but it didn't roll that way. So I put in that scene of why he was so tense, just to show why the role didn't work out. So I want to make sure I'm not boring the reader, but things are making sense. And if I'm doing too much of it, I need you to tell me so that I can roll it back. I have no problem being told that I'm going too far.
No, I don't think so.
No, I don't think so either.
Okay.
Yeah, definitely.
You got it on record. We're live. You got it on record. Be back. June did it when she felt I was going too far ahead with her scene, and I was very grateful for it. So, because I can forget that I'm throwing in too much information. So, I appreciate all feedback. So, anything else anyone wants to talk about the process of writing the character opinions, or talk about anything else you want to mention?
I thought writing the character opinions was a really good exercise. From a writing standpoint, from a role-playing standpoint. Because it really makes you think, well, how would this character actually deal with this other character in a Marvel comic if they were actually, oh my God, on a team together? You have to, there's some, artifice in that, well, in reality, these two characters would never ever be on a team together, but they are here, so how would you make that work? From a role-playing standpoint, how do you have fun with that? And so I thought that was an excellent exercise.
Usually what I try to do when I'm playing a character, thinking about the Pathfinder character sheets, they have that little note placed down at the bottom. I'll write a character or an NPC's name, and I'll put like a face next to it, kind of how I feel about that person. Just to, it's been a couple weeks. Who is this dude? Look at him. Oh, I don't like this guy. I don't like you. So doing the actual reactions and doing that post, I think, like Ken said, it was a good exercise for our characters to kind of think about and elaborate kind of how do I feel about Morbius or Crusader.
That's a really good note. That's something I would never have thought of, is to have just a little smiley face emote next to the name of
Yeah.
as to just a general idea of how I feel.
Yeah.
I may have to update my post now with emojis. Little vampire emojis.
Yeah. Have a
So
smiley
they'll-
face with the little
yeah.
fangs.
I think I really liked it, and also you can see how we went a bit further away from the comics in how people have perceived the other characters based on how they played. So it was also quite nice to see, like, oh, they actually read my posts. They enjoyed it. They've taken something away, and likewise I did for others. And it was just very, I don't know. It was one of those moments when you sit back and you look at what you've done. And it's like, oh, it actually worked out quite well, and it was a good moment to do it because it was at the end of stage one. So it was also like a way for us to look back and to sum it up as a player, so what the experience has been. Because we weren't just telling about the players, we were telling about what the gaming experience has been for us. Why we were talking about a specific character we interacted, and the description was so great that actually, again, it corroborates even more the idea that it's been very immersive. Like for us, it's been something that has worked even better than a normal game. Because you don't spend that much time thinking about it. It was great. It was really, really nice.
I think it helped make for the I can't say for certain, but I hope that it helped the reader see the character as the player saw the character. That was part of the reason I wanted to do it, was because we had, as plot points as a group, had done things like war journals for the Punisher that we posted, or I think we did one for Deadpool.
Yeah.
A way back from a game that they had done, and those were really interesting to read, and it just gives an insight into the character before we jump into the main story. And the first, I can't claim this is my idea. The original time I saw this done was back in the 90s. There was a Justice League manual book that DC put out that was just when they were doing the whole the Martians invade and they're pretending to be superheroes story arc. But they put it out and they had character bios of each hero in there, plus a little sidebar that had what Superman thinks of the rest of the Justice League, what Batman thinks of the rest of the Justice League. And I wish I still had that, but I remembered it. I'm like, that would be awesome to have for our team, just to have what at the get-go these guys think of each other, so we can watch how that opinion changes over time. Mm-hmm. And yes, Arachnite does have a master list of how to defeat each and every one of the other Avengers.
No, I figured that was going to be Batman's list. Like, I can beat him, I can beat him, I can beat him, I can beat him.
Yeah. I'm Arachnite. So, yeah. So I think that, well, if does anybody else have anything they want to talk about the play by email about? Because
no, I think I think, at least for me, I believe we kind of covered a lot of it. I mean, there are certain pros and cons to play by post versus live, and I think we're taking good advantage of the pros. I think there are certain inherent things that you can do in play by post that you can't do otherwise. And I think we're making good use of that right now.
Yeah. Cool. I don't know if we want to talk about much else, is because there's things that we're working on plot points that haven't been released yet. Mm-hmm. Techniques that we're working on to try to streamline how we produce and efficiently produce our posts and our content. But since we haven't finalized anything, I don't want to go into too many detail. Right. But I do want to. There's been a lot of behind-the-scenes work by June Shores. That I think that without saying what she's been doing, has been a phenomenal amount of work, and I want to thank her tremendously for what she's done. And thank everybody who's been doing so much work on plot points. We're all doing this for free.
Yeah.
So I think that we should take a moment and just say, thank you I want to say thank you to everybody who's participated in the game and who's participated in plot points and who's just made the site even Cam Banks has basically said this is the descendant of the game for him. So I think that's a huge accollade.
Yeah,
That's not an exact quote, but basically is what he said. This is the spiritual child of the original game.
Hey man,
so
that's pretty awesome.
It's and again, that's not an exact quote. You have to look up exactly what he said.
He didn't actually say that, but like we can pretend that.
It's the gist. It's the gist of it. So I think we should all be very happy with what we've done, and I look forward to seeing how it grows in the future.
Yeah.
To end abruptly, Marvel pushes us its next role-playing game.
Yeah.
Which will be based on spinning tops.
There you go. Very good. Beyblade, the RPG.
Yes.
Oh no.
Marvel, I made you out of clay. All right. Well, if that's it, I want to bid everyone watching a great night, and I want to say play more games. That's Will Wheaton's thing.
Excelsior.
That's original.
Yeah.
Face front upending.
Enough said.
Enough said.
Enough said.